thank you so much for joining us, Mr. Veejay Nakra, CEO, Automotive Division of Mahindra and Mahindra Limited. It's a pleasure to have you with us on this video today, Vijay.
Pleasure to be here, Bala, with you, having this interaction. Thank you so much.
Right. So we're in the COVID times, if I might have to say that. How has Mahindra handled this entire pandemic crisis? I think the first lockdown in our country started towards the end of March. Now we are in the last week of June. So we've come a full 3 months. So if you can give us an update on what is the status of manufacturing facilities and dealerships at Mahindra and how you've actually handled this entire period.
Bala, as you rightly said, we are having this conversation 90 days after the pandemic, hit us and we actually moved into a lockdown. So I think the 90 days has, really been a very, very different and a very exciting journey, I think, for everyone, not just for Mahindra, but for the industry, for all the manufacturers. When we started this journey 90 days back, had we had this conversation, maybe 60 days earlier, my answers probably would have been very different. But today, 90 days down the road, a lot more optimistic, pleasantly surprised and delighted to see how things are turning out. No doubt, we've had our fair share of challenges, be it on the demand side or the supply side. But yes, now 90 days later, as we stand, 85% of our commercial vehicle dealers are up and running. 90% of our workshops are operational. Vehicles are already coming in for, there is some obviously pent-up demand because of the lockdown in terms of service. So we are seeing those customers come back to the workshops. On the supply side, clearly, all our plants are now operational. The supply chain is geared up well, faster than what we had anticipated. And as far as production is concerned, whether it is Supro or Jito or the Bolero pickup or the City pickup in the small commercial vehicle range, we are producing all these products and we've already started dispatching them and they are available at our dealerships. In the BS6 Avatar, or whether you look at the Blazo or the Furo range of ICV and HCVs, they too, we've started production and we've dispatched them to our dealership. So the wheels have started churning, production has started, demand has already started trickling in, and business is slowly moving back to normalcy.
Brilliant. I mean, very, very nice to hear. I mean, something very optimistic. And I think as you rightly indicated, this pandemic has probably taught all of us a lot of things, a lot of lessons. And I think those who've learned those lessons have come out a lot stronger and, much more optimistic than before. Right.
Actually, Bala, I'll just come in here. In fact, I mean, it's not a right measure because, right, everybody has got their own supply chain from where they source. So every manufacturer is taking a little bit of time to gear up. But if I just look at, while April was literally almost a zero month, if I look at May, while last year was very good for us from a commercial vehicle business point of view in terms of gaining market share, if I look at May, we've gained some more market share in the month of May. So from a supply chain point of view and gearing up to go to market, especially in the small commercial vehicle range, I think we've been faster than most of the other players in bringing our products to the market.
Brilliant. I mean, that also shows the agility and, the strength of your team, the entire team across the value chain, I would say. Right. In terms of how to bring back the demand in the commercial vehicle space, what do you think you as an OEM can do? And also, what do you think is the role of the other stakeholders, very importantly, the government as well? What do you think all of us can jointly do to get back the demand and also bring back the right sentiments in the market, Vijay?
Well, I think we need to break this up into two parts. There is a small commercial vehicle portfolio or segment and industry, and then there is obviously the medium and heavy commercial vehicles. And I think you know as well as me that the dynamics that plays out in both of these are very, very different. So right now, if I look at it, obviously, we are clearly seeing that there is a demand specifically in the small commercial vehicle segment. And as we see buoyancy come back to the market, we are clearly seeing products like Supro, Jito, the City Pickup, BMT, Big Bolero Pickup, all of these currently are, we are seeing a strong demand come in. And that's largely because of movement of goods to the last mile. I think, as we all know, everybody wants contactless. So it's the e-commerce, it's the movements of the fruits, vegetables, essentials, milk, medicine, all of this obviously is the need of the hour. And clearly because of that, we are seeing demand play out. So there, I think it is, and of course, in my view, this is a lot of it could be pent up demand. And yes, I will come to what we need to do structurally here too. But obviously on the heavy commercial vehicle side, as you know that there is, we sit with a challenge of excess capacity in the industry. It's going to take more time for that segment to revive and come back. And I think a lot will have to do with how the infrastructure, the economy, the wheels of the economy turn to bring demand back into the heavy commercial vehicle segment. But let's talk a little bit first about small commercial vehicle segment. While there is good demand, one thing that cuts across both SCV and HCV, in my view, is the scrappage policy. We clearly would want to see the scrappage policy come in from the government to support the industry. GST will have a big role to play, especially in the small commercial vehicle segment, where we've been talking about it for a while with the government. We would like to see some action on that front. The third one, in my view, is diesel prices. I think we all need to understand, and this plays out even more for the heavy commercial vehicle segment, because in the current situation where, especially in the heavy commercial vehicle segment, where we've got excess capacity, it's difficult for the fleet owners to pass on these increased costs to customers. I think unless, and I mean, just for example, today morning, if you see the news, diesel has become more expensive than gasoline in a market like Delhi, NCR. So clearly, I think diesel price is the third element that I believe that, we would need to see some support come and play out there. That while there is free pricing, if you look at the price of crude oil, I think there clearly is an opportunity to look at pricing of diesel, especially since that's a fuel that drives the economy. In terms of the entire logistics of the country is dependent on, to a very large extent, on fleet and on commercial vehicles, and we clearly see an opportunity there. And the last one, in my view, is finance. So I think the government has done a lot in terms of the support that they have gone out and given to revive the economy, hats off that in these challenging times for the government to go and put that stimulus out there. But while the support has gone out to agri, and while the support has gone out to the MSMEs, what really we require is an impetus of finance to be given for purchase of commercial vehicles. And you see, so while we talk about liquidity, we talk about the appetite for financiers to fund commercial vehicles right now is low. And unless and until something is done over there, don't forget that in the case of personal vehicles, if you look at it, about 60 to 70% of personal vehicles are bought through finance, and 30% is still people largely fund it themselves, number one. Number two, in the case of personal vehicles, it's normally 70, 80% of the loan tenure value that goes as a finance loan that a customer takes. But in the case of commercial vehicles, 95, 100% of commercial vehicle sales are funded. And even there, one of the things, as you rightly said, as a manufacturer, what we are going to do on the demand side is obviously we need to make the purchase a lot more affordable. And hence, we need to come up, we normally put offers out like 100% funding. Now, unless financiers don't support this initiative, it's going to be very, very difficult. So in my mind, that's another bucket. But having said that, there is a lot that we've done. We've reached out to our, financial partners who we work with. There are some very, very good finance offers we have on the table for our customers, be it 90 days moratorium, be it increasing the loan tenure from typical 3-4 years to now 5 years, 6 years. We've even these are some of the financial products that we put out in the market to increase demand. But fundamentally, unless and until there are growth drivers for the economy to move and the wheels of the economy to turn, I think while small commercial vehicle segment will see some pickup, the heavy commercial vehicle segment will have to play out for some more time.
Right. Very interesting. I think you touched upon rightly. It's a joint effort of all the stakeholders, right? I mean, everybody has to do their bit to ensure the entire industry gets rolling back. Very true. Your thoughts on the BS6 transition? This is probably one of the most important, emission transition the Indian market has seen, and we've done it in record time. In 3 years, no other market has done it in such time. But unfortunately, it also coincided with the pandemic, but we've still weathered the storm. We have gone ahead with the transition. What is your take on how much is BS6 getting impacted because of the pandemic, and also about M&M's readiness for this entire BS6 era?
Yeah, I think you're right. So was it required? Absolutely, no doubt. But every such action or move obviously comes at a very high cost, right? And making a jump from BS4 to BS6, the kind of technology that it brings, it comes at a certain cost. Both, one is from a point of view of the acquisition cost, and then obviously there is the maintenance cost also that in a sense gets impacted. But as I said, very much needed and very, very important. Now that it's done as a part of the transition, like I said, I think in the small and in the small commercial vehicle segment, which is up to the 3.5 ton segment, by and large, given that how the economics works over here, there is demand. So in a sense, there is an efficiency also that's played out by manufacturers. And here I'm talking about M&M in particular, that we've been, given commodity prices have supported the transition to BS6. And we've also done a very, very good job in terms of managing the cost of technology in the transition from BS4 to BS6. So, in terms of the cost impact to the customer, it's lower than what one would have expected. Number one. Number two, by coming up with special financing schemes for the customer, like I said, for example, moving from 3 years to 4 years or 5 years as the loan tenure amount, we've been able to minimize the impact of that cost to the customer by, kind of increasing the tenure in which the customer needs to pay. As far as our readiness, so yes, there is some impact in terms of demand because of the price. And like I said, in the SCV, it's been easier, but in the heavy commercial vehicle, given that there is supply sitting over there and excess supply sitting over there, the impact of the cost of BS6 to the heavy commercial vehicle segment is going to be higher. And that obviously is also going to be one of the reasons why the revival may take a little longer, and it's not just the pandemic. As far as our readiness is concerned, on the small commercial vehicle range, whether it's the Jito or the Supro, which is our 0.5 ton, the 0.75 ton, the 1 to 1.7 ton, which has got the BMT, the city pickup, and the Bolero pickup, and the big Bolero pickup. All of these are now in BS6, as I mentioned earlier. And yeah, so that's on the small commercial vehicle side. On the heavy commercial vehicle side, we already have the Blazo, which is in BS6, the Furio, and not only the Furio that we had launched earlier, but even more variants of the Furio in other tonnage capacity and load carrying capacity are now available in BS6. Some of the other products are in the process of transition as we had to prioritize some of the products, but these being our primary volume drivers in the commercial vehicle are all now available in BS6, in the BS6 avatar. One last point that I would, want to kind of put on the table and talk a little bit about what we are doing as M&M is one advantage that we've had. As I mentioned on the SCV side, in any case, we've been quicker than our competitors in terms of bringing BS6 out. One advantage that we believe we have on the heavy commercial vehicle range is if you look at, and especially on Blazo, which is our primary volume driver in the HCV segment, the engine that we had on that product was anyway a high capacity engine. So the transition to go from BS4 to BS6 was a lot easier for us compared to some of the competitive products. So the impact of moving from BS4 to BS6 in terms of operating cost for a Blazo, we believe will be lower than some of our competitors where they had to increase the engine capacity as they moved from BS4 to BS6. So the operating economics, which was the strength of Blazo as a brand in the market in terms of, because of which we actually went out and did our whole VADA campaign of the commitment to our customer. We believe that that is a strength that we've had, and we've been able to further strengthen that as we've moved from BS4 to BS6 in the heavy commercial vehicle segment.
Brilliant. Interesting. Very interesting to note the Blazo BS6 avatar. That's something we will look forward to, tracking as well as things proceed. We've discussed about how M&M and the industry has weathered the COVID, pandemic. But every adversity and challenge also throws up a lot of opportunities, right? I think M&M is probably one of the best people to talk about. One, BS6 gives an opportunity, opens up a lot of opportunities on exports. Can you comment about that? And also, what other opportunities has the entire COVID pandemic given rise to? If you can touch upon some of them, Veejay.
I think exports, we should hold that for a bit right now because there are challenges that we have as the borders open, as the country open, and Southeast Asia being a very strong market for us, whether it's Nepal, Sri Lanka, Bangladesh, they also have their share of challenges that they're currently dealing with. So I think in the medium to longer term, this will play out well. But in the short term right now, I think there are some challenges that the industry is facing. I think one opportunity at the moment that we clearly are seeing is Africa as a market, and there's a lot of focus that we are putting with our commercial vehicles, especially the heavy commercial vehicle range to Africa as a country. So that would be my answer as far as exports is concerned. I think we need to be a little cautious and see how this will play out before we get back to the numbers that we did with exports as a business.
Any other opportunity that you see COVID has kind of given rise to?
Yeah, of course. Sorry, that was the second part of your question. And, one big opportunity that I see is that how the whole e-commerce industry is playing out and the ability for companies to customize web-based solutions specifically for this application. That's number one. Number two, the big opportunity that I see is creating safe spaces in terms of moving people, because let's not forget that as businesses open up, people will need to come back to work. Organizations are going to need to start bringing back people to the workplaces. So how do in and which is where I believe the whole the van category could be a very, very big opportunity and segment that could play out. And Supro Van is a product that we have, and we've even come up with a product which creates safe partitions within the vehicle, for customers to travel in without putting people at risk. And we call that the Safe Space Kit, and we've kind of brought that into our range of product. And the third opportunity that I see is ambulance. Obviously, that is directly related to COVID, and we are very happy that we've been the first in being able to supply the Supro ambulance, which currently is the most affordable ambulance in that segment. And we've got a large order which came from the government of Maharashtra, and we've supplied the first lot of vehicles to them. In fact, right now, our big challenge is how do we ramp up capacity of our suppliers to be able to make the ambulance capacity available. So I think these are some opportunities and segments that I see. On the heavy commercial vehicle side, we are already seeing tipper as an application playing out as an opportunity where we see demand. I think the government also has gone out saying what they are going to do to revive demand through infrastructure. And we all know that that's one very, very big lever, that the moment we start seeing investment and the whole opportunity with infrastructure play out, automatically we see the direct impact of that to transportation, to goods movement, to GDP. And clearly tippers is another opportunity in the heavy commercial vehicle segment where I see an opportunity playing. So I think these broadly would be some short to medium term opportunities in the commercial vehicle space.
Brilliant, Vijay. We'll probably have a last one on, I know nobody can do the crystal ball gazing. This is a question which everybody is being asked at. Numbers, I'm not going to ask you numbers. But how do you see the rest of this financial year panning out, both for M&M and for the entire industry? And also the medium to long-term impact of COVID, if you can give us an idea and probably conclude with that.
So firstly, it's that, as you rightly said, it's a crystal ball gazing question. And quite frankly, I'm still gazing at that crystal ball to find the answers. But again, we'll break this into small commercial vehicles and the heavy, medium and heavy commercial vehicle segment. Small commercial vehicle segment, I think we are going to be pleasantly surprised to see a revival faster than what one would have expected. I think we've seen significant degrowth, as you know, last year. Last year, the industry, overall, if you see, the commercial vehicle segment degrew almost 48 to 50%. And, this is a combination of a smaller degrowth in the less than 2 ton, 2 to 3.5 ton segment, which was, more like 18-20%. There was a much higher degrowth in the heavy commercial vehicle segment, close to 50-55%. So overall, if you look at it, last year was a significant degrowth. So as it is, there has been a lower base that we have moved to. So I think we probably can expect that rate of degrowth that happened last year obviously will reduce substantially for the small commercial vehicle segment. I think we probably would still have maybe a marginal degrowth to a flat kind of a scenario playing out, a marginal degrowth more than a flat scenario that could play out for the small commercial vehicle segment. But the heavy commercial vehicle segment will continue to be under pressure. I think we are already 2 months into a 12-month financial year, and we are already seeing that demand is very, very low. So it's like trying to do the 12-month business in a period of 9 months to 8 months, which I don't think would play out. So there would be significant pressure that would continue on the medium and heavy commercial vehicle segment. But I don't think I'm in a position to give a figure or a percentage to that. So that's the answer to part one of your question, which is the short to medium term. You also asked me, what do you see the impact of COVID in the medium to long term? Look, I think the human nature as such is one that adapts very, very quickly to change. And I think we've seen this over centuries, that every time there has been an epidemic or a pandemic, the human race comes out stronger, more agile, and they come out faster than the previous one. So in my view, we are already seeing green shoots. My view is that the consumer behavior is going to change permanently going forward. This has been an inflection point. I think the role of digital in the whole purchase process, in the experience process, not just purchase, even post-purchase, is going to be very, very different. Many people believe that digital is a personal vehicle business change. My view is it will see a significant change even in the commercial vehicle industry. People are definitely going to want to move to contactless and safe when it comes even in the post-purchase experience. So, these are going to be fundamental shifts where consumers are going to want safe, secure convenience as a part of their purchase and post-purchase experience, which fundamentally means that most organizations are going to have to revisit their business models. And that's clearly something that M&M has been doing in the last 90 days. If you ask me, I think our team has worked harder in the last 90 days than we had done even when the industry was at its significant degrowth of 40-50% last year. But the good part is, or the positive part is, or the positive energy that we've been able to do is all about redefining the way we would do business going forward. So how we will reach out to customers, how will we make their experience different, how will we make it contactless, safe, secure, how do we ensure that in these challenging times we relook at the whole dealership business model, because let's not forget that at the end of the day, our channel partners are the ones who are out there serving our customers and selling to them. So re-looking at the entire business model for our channel partners to make sure that we are able to turn this around going forward to make it, a positive business for our channel partners. So all of these are fundamental shifts that are going to happen. A lot of it is WIP. Do we have all the answers? No. But a lot of things are in action. A lot of change is already implemented. And I think fundamentally the next 6 months is going to really, play that out in that sense to see who are the ones who walk the talk of this change. And I think the customers are going to reward such manufacturers. So that's how I see the medium.
Brilliant. Thank you so much, Veejay. I think a fitting finale, I would say, what you shared at the end. I think M&M in particular, you've prepared the platform for the future, and it's going to be exciting times. We wish you all the best, and I look forward to another interaction with you probably 6 months down the line to find out how things have panned out at your end as well. Yeah.
Mr. Bala, I'm looking forward to meeting you again soon. Take care.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Veejay.